On 19 February last, exactly 1 year after Father General decreed the Universal Apostolic Preferences, Father Sosa participated in a first webinar with his compañeros and friends from the Spanish-speaking world. The theme was precisely, where is the project of the UAPs 1 year after its announcement? Today, for the English-speaking world, the topic was to be essentially the same. However, we are living in the real world, and it was not possible for Father Sosa to speak about the UAPs without referring to the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. So, Father General, dear Father Arturo, we are ready all over the world to hear your message. I'm sure that this message will be encouraging for many people. It will encourage people also to get in contact with you, into dialogue with you. I therefore yield you the floor.
I am glad to be able to join you today at this time of change and challenge, when so many of the world population is in a kind of isolation or lockdown because of the coronavirus. This crisis will have a huge impact on how we relate to each other, on how we work, on how the world economy is run, and how we pray together, on how we carry out the mission of the Society of Jesus and in the Church. I came back from India and Nepal 3 weeks ago, when the awareness of this pandemic was in its infancy. Since then, there have been daily statistics on our screens, usually pessimistic ones, but that what says in my mind most of all, in fact, is not so much these statistics, but the amazing initiative that are being taken around the world. These range from the countless small acts of kindness that people are showing towards each other, to projects organized by voluntary and state organizations, to the outreach offered by Christian communities, by ourselves, Jesuits and our partners. This initiative shows that we are a church on the move, a church going out to the frontiers, going to where people are wounded and hurting. All across the world, we have seen great appreciation of the health workers and those on the front line. I see the generosity of the staff and community here in the Curia. I hear about Jesuits discovering again some key aspects of community life and of service to each other. But my first thought is with the poor and those who are on the margin of our societies. They are, one more time, the ones who suffer most. They have little access to health care if they get sick, or to clean water and soap with which to wash their hands. For many of the poorest in our world, if they are told to stay indoors or to practice social distancing, this will mean they cannot earn their daily wage. In addition, this in turn means that they will not have food to put on the table of their family. It can seem like a choice between sickness or starvation. These are the men, women, and children of the second Universal Apostolic Preferences, those who are thrown aside by society and considered expendable. I say to them today, the Society of Jesus does not forget you. We stand with you. We walk beside you. Tell us how we can help you, and we will do our best. This is the mission which Pope Francis gave us when he confirmed the Universal Apostolic Preferences. These were the fruit of a spirit-led discernment by the Universal Apostolic Body. Illuminated by them, we put into practice the mission of reconciliation and justice to which the 36th General Congregation invites us. This particular experience of COVID-19 also reminds us how humanity has exploited our precious planet. In the fourth preference, we express the desire and hear the call to work with others, to care for our common home. When I travel to various provinces and regions, I see this desire among so many of you. I desire to work passionately and urgently with others to bring about a change, to act differently, to love and cherish our planet with the tenderness of the Creator. Personally, I feel motivated and energized to do something, and I know that you do too. If we all work together, we can bring about change. It is not too late. We are truly entering in a new epoch in our world and also a new era for the Society of Jesus. If we understand and live the Universal Apostolic Preferences as a spiritual experience, we arrive at the preferences not after an exercise of strategic planning, but by way of an authentic discernment in common, carried out by the whole body of the Society of Jesus. Young people are at the center in the third apostolic preference. We want to learn from them. We need their energy, their insights, their courage, their daring. We also know that as we grow older, we see more complexity, and that is good. But the risk is that we get too cautious. I do not want a cautious and too careful Society of Jesus. Just as the Holy Father wants the Church to be a field hospital going out to the places of darkness and danger, I dream of a Society of Jesus that can imagine and put into practice great things, just like Ignatius, Francis Xavier, and so many Jesuits in history right down to the present age. Young people can push us to these places. They can give us the courage and the energy. The third preference asks us to learn from young people. With over 2 million students in our schools and university, this contact with young people is a precious gift to the society and to the Church. For an apostolic body with a long history like the Society of Jesus, learning from young people means acquiring the same inner freedom and indifference as Abraham. He was able to leave behind all that he had achieved in his life, a long life also, as well as his stability and comfort. He set out without knowing the destination, trusting only in God, who would indicate it to him. The COVID-19 pandemic is bringing great fear and grief. So many have died or are ill. People miss their loved ones and feel alone. We are doing our best to stand with them, even in the midst of many restrictions and limitations. We pray with them. We are with them in solidarity. Please, tell anyone you know who is directly affected by the virus that when we celebrate our community Mass here in Curia, each morning we regularly pray for each one of them. I know that every Jesuit community is also in touch with those who are suffering and that we are all praying for them along with the whole Church. But even in the darkness and fear, I have also seen that the COVID-19 crisis is bringing consolation and lighting up different aspects of the path to God. The Spirit is showing us how even this experience can be part of the journey of the humanity to God. With this insight, without denying the suffering, we can help others to find their way to God. The crisis is showing us that we are one humanity. Every human being, every people, each culture is part of this one varied, rich, and interdependent humanity. It is showing us that overcoming a crisis like this one is possible when we become aware of the importance of looking after the common good and taking seriously our individual responsibility. It is showing us that there is no difference in age, race, religion, or social status when we are one humanity. Each and every one of us is part of it. No one is left out. No one of us can do without the others. It is showing us that we want to walk together. We are all concerned. We help each other to overcome fears and anxieties. Each one of us is looking for a way to lend a hand, starting by putting what we ourselves want in a second place and accepting the measures and sacrifices that allow us to contribute to the good of all. It is showing us that competence and generosity of those who are in the front line, caring for those affected, seeking solutions, or making difficult decisions for the good of all. It is showing us that the sensitivity of so many people or organizations and the enormous reserve of solidarity that exists in young people, in adults, and in the elderly, in all corners of human society. It is showing us the power of faith, the strong bonds that unite believers, the love of Jesus Christ that impel us, reconcile us, and unite us. There are so many people praying together on social media. They want to profess their faith, that faith which they feel in the depth of their hearts, in which they cannot keep to themselves. This crisis is a spiritual and intellectual challenge for us. Listening to the Spirit, trusting in God, and allowing ourselves to be guided by Him does not exempt us from the effort to understand in depth the causes of the crisis, its consequences, and the ways to make it an occasion to advance towards a more just and humane world. The apostolic body of the society rests and walks in two legs, spiritual depth and also intellectual depth. As I said earlier, I have seen following the many creative initiatives that have been taken. The Curia website gives regular updates about some of these, and you can see the rich variety. I encourage you to keep discerning together the best way to be close to those in need. I encourage you to keep listening for the gentle voice of the Spirit, indicating new ideas about how to help. We don't know how long this stretch of the road is or what will follow after. We are in this together, we Jesuits, our lay colleagues, our partners in the Ignatian family. We are in this together, in solidarity with the whole of humanity and with the amazing and beautiful planet on which we live. We want to live this time as an opportunity. We want to take seriously the invitation that the Universal Apostolic Preferences and the crisis caused by the COVID-19 give us in different and complementary ways. It is an invitation to dialogue and to converse at all levels of our life and with the Lord who has called us. May the same Lord bless and keep us in the walk this journey together.
Thank you very much, Father Arturo, for your statement. I note that in the face of the gloomy news that have been communicated to us in relationship with the coronavirus crisis, you have chosen to emphasize how much you are touched by the new possibilities of interrelationship among people at this time, by the creativity of so many people who are looking for suitable ways to serve, and by the generosity of those who want to help those in need. You have also stressed how much in the spirit that animates the Society of Jesus, we are concerned about the fate of the poorest, and how much the Society wants to seek ways to accompany them, to support them. And you also have mentioned the opportunity for you to make the connection with the importance of caring for our planet, as you identify everywhere you go a real desire for a healthier environment to ensure a better future for the younger generation. So you express the hope that the society of Jesus that is now a society on the move, and that a society that overcomes fears, that it has the energy of Ignatius and Francis Xavier, and you invited us to solidarity and prayer. For you, this crisis is both an intellectual and a spiritual challenge. So your reflections have already prompted some questions, many reactions. As there are several, as a moderator, I will ask you to try to answer relatively briefly to each one of them. I would like to ask you a first question, a relatively difficult one. And I see that it comes from Scholastic in Zimbabwe. He says, among this pandemic, the most asked question from my colleagues and people around me is, where is God in all this? How can we explain his presence?
God is a tricky word, because which God are we talking about? No, I have several gods in our word. So if we are talking about the God of Jesus Christ, or the God that Jesus Christ revealed us, so we have to see Jesus Christ. And how is the most profound and deep image of God that Jesus gives us? The cross. Jesus in cross. Jesus giving his life for the life of us. There is God. If we are able to really contemplate and get touched by the contemplation of Jesus in cross, we will find the crucified people today, the crucified of this moment of the pandemic and the injustice of the world. And we will find God. God is there. God is asking us to do something, to give our life so that people can have life.
Thank you. There is something here that is more broadly about the Universal Apostolic Preferences that bring us together, and it comes from Japan. And the question is, how can we understand the missionary dimension of the UAPs, especially in the context of a non-Christian country like Japan?
Well, I think all the complex, the four preferences and our way of doing in collaboration, but that's why I say 5, because I say this, there's a hand with 5 fingers, 4 preferences, and the collaboration, the way to do it. All of them are a missionary statement. We talk about the care of the common home, the planet. That's a missionary statement. We talk about listen from the youth and learn from them and accompany them. We are talking about a missionary way of being in touch with that special part of the humanity. When we talk about the poor and the excluded, and to work with him in a mission of reconciliation and justice, to change the world, is a missionary. And when in all of this, we are showing the way to God. The path to God that we are working together is that path that we are showing us, and that's what a missionary do, to show the way to God, but in all these complex situations.
I see 2 questions here that are related to the South Asia. And I don't know if it's a little on the side of the core of our discussion, but it's interesting. Someone from India says, I'm part of the Right to Food movement in India, working in Kolkata. Starvation is the biggest virus, I'm afraid. And it's going to kill more people in India than the present virus we're talking about. So it should be interesting to see how to balance, what is being said, what is being done, about this virus, this coronavirus, and the fact that so many people are suffering from poverty or from even hunger in the world. And a scholastic here in Rome is saying something like, I'm studying in Rome, amidst fear, my heart in Italy is with all these Italian people who are suffering, but my heart is also with the poor people in Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, and other South Asian countries who can not afford to sustain themselves with regard to food and sanitary facilities. How can we Jesuits, or how can we scholastics, for instance, can be more closer to these people? Can we be with these people? Are there ways that the Society of Jesus can consider structural changes that will make the Jesuit communities really with these people?
The virus of the injustice, the absence of food for a big part of the humanity is was there before the COVID-19. That's what maybe the COVID-19 is a kind of a shock that can awake us, and to see that we are living in a very unjust world. Now, people who is suffering the most, as I said before, are those who were suffering before the virus and not a cause of the virus. And this is the challenge. I'm absolutely in agreement with the idea of that the worst virus is not the COVID-19, but the injustice that made so many people, that don't let so many people to have a real human life. So that's the challenge for the Society of Jesus. When we formulate our mission, we say we are in a mission of reconciliation and justice. And to struggle for justice is part of our faith. We cannot live our Christian faith being indifferent in face to injustice. So it's our mission. And we have, as I said before, we have two ways of being, or three ways of being in touch with a spiritual way, that is to be really connected in love, in spirit, in prayer, with the poor people, with concrete poor people, with poor people. The second one is the intellectual challenge. You know, how we contribute to find ways to overcome this situation. It's not only a will process, it's also intellectual process. How we can contribute as a Society of Jesus to create new models of relationship among people, among countries, and social structures, and all over the world. And the third one is the social action, to be really not only doing something, but sharing the life of the people. That means where we live, how we live, and what we do and how we do.
Maybe a complement to this, but it also comes from India. It is a question that should we, in this time of crisis, as Jesuits, not first of all protect ourselves, but reach out to the marginalized in collaboration with government and non-government agencies or groups?
I agree. We are not, our first priority is not to preserve ourselves. No? We preserve ourselves so we can serve the others. Maybe people can, maybe for Jesuits, the image of Luis Gonzaga come back in this moment. No? We have the tomb of Luis Gonzaga here near our house in San Ignatius Church, and he died serving in a pandemic like this one. But in conditions, that moment, the hygienic condition, the medical science was very different than ours. We can do a service and also preserving our life. No, we can do what we do with a real intelligence, no? Doing what we have to do with the measures. There are measures. There are people in the front line. There's a lot of people helping directly who is sick or who are in danger of do that. So please do. Please don't stay caring of you. Take care of the people, but for take care of the people, you have to take care of yourself.
And it's also part of collaboration that you have been insisting on so much in your different visits, that we do not work just among ourselves, but more and more in the world we are working in collaboration with others. There's something from Indonesia here. I am a young Jesuit priest from Indonesia teaching in the Jesuit University. So how should we as Jesuits with these students, who most of them are not Christians, how could we accompany them during this time of crisis? What message should we convey to them?
Well, that's part of my message before. So that one of the lessons of this situation is that we are one humanity. We don't have a Christian humanity and non-Christian humanity, Buddhist humanity, or East people humanity. Is only one humanity. All of us are loved by God, and we are loving them with the love of God, and we have to be really near there. We accompany their life as they are. We don't make differences. So I think, but the way we show the path to God is to be just aside the people, really in touch, loving them.
From Scholastics in Portugal, a formation house. Besides through prayer, and especially by offering our works and suffering, and I think that you have already touched this point, but how can we reach and serve the poor in this time when we can't even leave our houses? Well, let's start with this, a simple one.
Think how? I think there are many ways. I think so, and I don't know your house yet. I hope sometime I can come to visit in your own house in Braga. But there are many ways, no, of being in touch with people now. And now there's even in the world of the poor people, everyone has a mobile phone, and so to communicate, we can talk. We can give a word of courage and to invite them to pray, or to indicate people how to get to the points that they can be helped by organizations that are doing something. Your creativity is challenged in this moment.
Let's switch to ecclesiology. Why not? The virus obliged the church to creative liturgical solutions, masses without the people of God, also the people of God without priests, with spiritual communion, confessions directly with God, blessing of the sick person. Do you think this crisis will accelerate the ecclesiology of the Vatican Council, the Second Vatican Council, different relationships between the priest and the faithful?
We hope so. I hope so. It's my big desire of my heart. If this crisis is an opportunity to find a better place for the community in the church life. Now so many people is doing as Christians their work, their prayer, their being people of God. And I think we also we are learning to be more flexible in about so many things, how we do the things in the church. So I with you, I agree in the desire that this is an opportunity also to be better with you.
A question that pushes you about one thing that you've said. You talked about not wanting the Society of Jesus to be too careful or cautious. It comes from Zimbabwe again. What does it mean concretely, not to be too cautious?
That means that we have to create new responses to new situations. The Society of Jesus has done so many things since about more than 400 years, and in each situation, Jesuits have been able to create the way of being in that situation. But with the history, with the tradition, sometimes we come to know that we know everything. We know every answer before we made the question. But now we have a question we cannot answer easily. So we need to look after new wave of doing things and not to be guided by fear, no. We need to be guided by the audacity, and I think it's a strong message that Pope Francis is giving, not to the Jesuits, but also to the Church, that fear is not a good counselor. That what really put us in the synchrony with the Spirit of God is audacity to risk, and to risk means also maybe we can make wrong some things, but we need to do new things in a new way.
I skip a couple of questions because I see one that is quite directly related to what you just said. Do you have suggestions to help us turn this crisis into permanent, not temporary and reactionary changes, into opportunities to live more deeply and more completely the apostolic preferences?
Well, that's why I mention this time, and always I present the preferences. I talk about Abraham, and I think this is Abraham shows us that our vocation is to keep going, is to leave behind what we have done or what we have lived, to put us on the road, and to trust God, and He will show us the road, the path. We don't know the path. We don't create the path. We just follow the Spirit, and this is the big challenge and the big experience we have had in producing as our apostolic body the preferences. We have experienced how the Spirit really led us if we put ourselves in that mood. So that's the invitation of the preferences. That's the invitation of the Pope. It's my invitation to every Jesuit, to every partner in mission, that we have to learn how to be guided by the Spirit, because it's the only way we can be more courageous. We can really overcome prudence and fear.
Something that is quite close to the day-to-day reality of some of our members. It is someone who is in formation who is sending this. And it's a question about how to react in front of authorities, obedience authorities. Scholastics have been required to withdraw from their apostolic ministries because of orders from civil authorities. But they would like, especially at this time, to be with those that they usually serve, especially those in need. How might they understand these competing demands and their own generous impulses?
Again, obedience is to be led by the Spirit. When we talk about the religious obedience, we are talking how as a body we really obey the Spirit. Now our programs plan of our affectivity, of our links, our relationship. What is the will of God? That is the challenge of obedience in religious life. And I used to say that obedience is hard to everyone, but for superiors it's harder, because they have to make a decision not by their own thinking, but they have to make a decision because they feel that this God guiding to that decision. And that's the same answer I give this companion and all the companions. No, we have really to be open, free, interiorly free, and free in our actions, to be led by the Spirit. And then we follow the Spirit. Sometimes we have to go away, sometimes we have to stay, sometimes there is not a common rule for that. No, each situation is different, and in each situation the Spirit will guide us.
How much weight do you give to the civil authorities in this context?
Well, civil authorities have an authority, and they have, in this moment, it's very important what civil authorities are doing all over the world. civil authorities in some places have really been able to stop the contagious of the virus. So I think civil authorities is one of the elements in our discernment. We are not only under the authority of the civil authorities, but is one of the elements to be considered in our discernment.
We talked about some reactions of the younger Jesuits and when in formation or their situation. And now I see something that's coming from an infirmary, the other. So these people, these members of this infirmaries are saying that they are isolated even more than before. What could be their role, they say, at this moment, especially to help the poor and the sick?
And normally when a Jesuit is sent to an infirmary, is sent with a mission. No? The infirmary is not a kind of nothing to do. You said you are sent to the infirmary with a mission to pray for the society and the church and the people. So I think for the infirmaries now we have a very special mission, no? Because the church and the society wants to help in this situation, and we need your prayer. I'm talking to our fellow Jesuits in the infirmaries. We need your prayer. Without your prayer, we can do almost nothing. We need you to help us to be really in touch with God, be in touch with suffering, because you are suffering also in your situation many times. So we need you. You are a very important part of our body in mission. Without your contribution, the mission of the society cannot go so far away.
From China, I'm not sure if it is Hong Kong or Taiwan, but it says, what vision can we help our people and our world? What vision can we help our church to form from this situation so that there will be some good things that will come out of it? I think that a couple of questions ago you touched some of these points, but do you see that there is a way for us, for instance, for these people who are living in the society that has some other problems, that other tensions, for the Catholics, for the Society of Jesus, to bring something that will help the people?
Yes, I think that this is putting our actions and our way of doing things in a relative way. So the COVID-19 crisis has focused everything there, no? So we seem to forget all other things, and I think that's the challenge. The challenge is how we really don't forget that this is not also an accident. It's not an accident, the COVID-19. It's the fruit of a way of how human beings has understand and have made their own relationship, and it's a confirmation of our mission to collaborate, to contribute in the change of this world. And I think we can show the people through reflecting about the COVID-19, the fragility of the world we have created. No? And how we need really to get together so we can go in another way. I don't think so that after the crisis things are going to change like this. No? There are so many interests behind this, and we are so used to the West. We are dreaming to come back to our normality. No? We are dreaming to just live as we were before the virus came to our life. But that's the great temptation. So to take an opportunity of this crisis is to be aware that something has to change, because really we are in a very fragile structure of human relationship and life. So don't forget this crisis. Not just, okay, that was a bad night, a nightmare. No, and we are awake again, and we are again in our life as before. No, we have to take the lesson that if we don't change after this, the next one will be worse.
A couple of questions are closer to the religious aspect of the crisis or the spiritual aspect of it. There is one that I would have the tendency to answer myself. It is, are there some ways we can adapt the spiritual exercises to this situation? And I would say that in the communication department from last week, when we published the first article about the reactions that are being done in different parts of the world, ideas that are being set, organized, or retreats that are being offered, there are creativity there, and the communication department is at the moment preparing some kind of list that will be very soon available to give examples of things that could be done. I just give one more example. In Australia, they have just come up with a 14-day retreat for the people who are asked to be in quarantine for 14 days. All over the world, there are people who are asked to stay 14 days by themselves. So there is a special retreat that is available that you could start at any time. This is one way of adapting, if you want, these spiritual exercises to the crisis. And I go to the second question that you will answer better than me. Next week is the Holy Week. This one comes from Canada. Do you have any suggestions on how we might take this current situation into the Paschal Triduum?
Get the gospel in your hands. I think this is the Holy Week is an opportunity this time. We cannot be with so many people in our community. We will be in small communities in our family, or in small groups, or by ourselves alone. Take the gospel. Take the gospel. Really, if you ask my preferences, I will take the fourth one, because I really get inspired with this text that we are reading also in the liturgy these days. No, and try to accompany the Jesus path, the Jesus path to Jerusalem, and all what happened around that, and the contemplation of the gospel, any one of them. No, you will really get immediately in touch with what you are living in this moment. You as a person, you as a part of a community, you as part of a nation, a people, and you as part of a humanity. No, that the history of Jesus is not the history of one man. It is the history of the humanity, and how God is showing us the way to be more human, and to really, through this suffering and through the giving of the life, we can get to the real life, to the life of God, to the resurrection.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Again, in this line of spirituality, I get a question here. I've been told by my feeder that he would send me short question, but this one is long. I'm from Italy. I really believe in what the general has said about discernment. But virus brought an existential fear that is going to touch every aspect of our life. And this brings unbalancement on disbalance in our discernment. The risk is to make bad choices based on the fear more than on the spirit. How can we overcome this fear? How can we integrate this situation of fear within our spiritual life?
There is a line, a verse in the letter to the Hebrew about this, no? That Jesus Christ came to liberate us from fear. Because those who are fear of death will ever live as a slave. And that's the Christian faith begins to be liberated from fear. we don't fear. We are not fearing to give our life. We have already give our life when we really get on a deeper spiritual experience and a deeper Christian commitment. Fear is a big temptation for humans and for Christians, and the Christian life, the grace of Christian life, liberated us from fear because we give our life. Our life makes sense to us because we have given that life so many people can have life.
Something about the more directly related to the preferences as such. It's a question you had to answer. I remember in some of the visits that we have done together. For many years, China and Africa featured as something central, as priorities, as the word was often used within the society, especially within the society's missions option. So where do China and Africa stand now at the moment?
In the same place. In the same place. I have explained, as you remember many times, that these preferences that we have received from Pope Francis this time are very different from the preferences given to the society by Father Kolvenbach. Father Kolvenbach identified 5 universal apostolic needs of the society. I underline the word needs that have to be faced by the whole body of the society. And China and Africa were the first 2. And then the intellectual apostolate, the migrants, and the interprovincial houses here in Rome. But this is a way of doing a kind of giving the society a mission. And there is there. So the China mission, Africa, intellectual apostolate, migrants, and the interprovincial houses in Rome continue to be apostolic needs that the whole body of the society have to contribute to get it in their life. So, and now what we have now, there are 4 orientations. That is a light for every apostolate in the society. It's a way how the Spirit is showing us the path that as a whole we need to do. So the 4 preferences will be part of China mission, of the African mission, of the intellectual apostolate mission, of the migration mission, and this in here in the interprovincial house, and all other apostolates of the society. So we are not changing the preferences. No, we are having another light about how to do, and those needs that Father Kolvenbach give to us and General Congregation 35 confirm they're still part of our mission in the society.
That's clear. About community life, I think I've got a question about this. I suppose that this experience of the present situation is changing something in our daily community life. That's the opinion of one of the Jesuits who's sending this question for all of our communities. So, have you got, as a general of the society, some feedback in this sense from the communities? Do you know if something is being changed by the situation, and how do the communities react? And there is a kind of second question that is linked to this. Have you got something to, as kind of advice or things to suggest to the communities at the moment?
But the first things I have heard is a kind of complaint. Oh, we are here all the time. No, it seems I can understand because I'm also a Jesuit for the last 53 years of my life. No, we are not used to be all the time in the community house. No, we are used to go back and forward, and it's a new experience for many of us. So we have to maybe discover something there. No, and there a big intuition in General Congregation 35 and 36 that remember us that community is also mission. That community is not only to have a room in the same house or to be in the same page of the catalog of the province. No, that is something more. That is a mission. We have to build this, the relationship that really becomes a community in the sense of a group of men, religious men, consecrated men that are able to discern together, to hear the Spirit together. So maybe this is an opportunity we have not planned to discover many things, to know each other better. No, because the communities change and people is coming back and forward. No, the community, there are very few communities that don't change almost every year or almost so maybe it's an opportunity to get to know better each one of us, to just to talk about our life, our experience, how we are living this, how to learn, because also it's not easy to us to share our sentiments, our movements inside, our fears in this moment, our hopes in this moment. So I think it's an opportunity to organize our life in a way we can have more time to pray together, not to pray, but also to pray together, not to share also the responsibility about the community. No, in many communities, okay, the superior and the minister should provide, and if they don't provide, we complain against them. No, but this is a moment to say no. This is our community. So together we need to provide, because now we have no external help, because people is each one in their own house. So it's a moment, an opportunity to serve each other now, to offer our generosity to help the others, and to to also exercise what the General Congregation 36 recommends so highly: spiritual conversation. Not only to don't talk all the time about the crisis, please. No. I don't want. I have my fear is to get to the dining room, and in the table the comment will be only coronavirus. No, the life is bigger than the coronavirus. Just talk about many other things, about us, our experience, our families, our nations, how we dream with the new world, how we really are having a spiritual experience in this time, and to organize a spiritual conversation, and to also maybe we will discover some things in our companions. For example, we have discovered in this community that there are some people that plays very well some instruments, and they can make a concert for the community, or there are people that they have very good selection of good films. No, and are offering that. So it's an opportunity to grow as a group that really come to know themselves better and love themselves as a community of companions. No? Getting really friends on the Lord.
I can testify that, in fact, the community life has been surprisingly alive here in this big community of the Curia, where usually almost half of the people are away. But now that we're all together, there is a new life, both on the prayer side and the community, as you said. There is a question here. It comes probably from Vietnam, from the name I can see, and it's someone who is probably in mathematics, because he says, actions, Ignatius told us, are more worthy than words. We have talked much about the universal preferences in in-depth qualitative ways, but we have not indicated any quantitative goals yet. Do you have any quantitative strategic plans for implementing the universal preferences?
It's not my task. It's the task of each apostolic work It's the task of each community. It's the task of each province. So we don't have the Society of Jesus is not a multilateral, a multinational organization. It's a kind of body where very decentralized, no? And we don't have an universal plan. We don't want to have. We cannot have a plan because it's impossible. Because we are working in so different contexts, and we are so different people and cultures that that is a way of not taking seriously the variety of our own body. So we are in each context. That's the next task of every apostolic work and of every apostolic community and province in the society. We have done a very nice path of discernment in common. But discernment without planning is wasting time and wasting opportunities. So now we need to really deep to feel this invitation of the Spirit and the mission of the church. And we have to come to a plan for the next 10 years. And we need to put it really in practice. Both, no? Planning without discernment is a big risk. Discernment without planning is wasting opportunities.
I had some other good questions here, but that's it. It's an hour and it goes fast, you know. I would like to thank the whole team who has participated in the preparation of this virtual meeting. I thank all those who registered and I apologize to those who sent questions that we didn't have the time to deal with. Of course, I thank Father Sosa, our Superior General, for his availability and his desire to be in touch with his companions and with the large Ignatian family at this time, this family that is all over the world. This unique and certainly difficult moment for many people encourages us to be in solidarity and to remain united in prayer. So we look forward to meeting again one day. Hopefully it will be in a better context. Have a nice day, a good evening, or a good night if you are living in the Pacific area.